I'll talk to you guys a little bit about a philosophy I've heard of today called retard-maxxing, which is, don't know, I don't want to overthink it because that sort of goes against the philosophy of it, which I've been told to practice, which I probably will give a go. But it's almost like a bit of happy stoicism. I think that's maybe the best way to put it. With retard-maxxing, what you're essentially doing, that's my dog, by the way. With this is an Everything t-shirt, by the way. If you're like me and you only liked a couple of songs or bands that are 10 years old now, Everything, Death Grips, who else? Gore Shit was pretty good as well. But if you guys know who I'm talking about there, then hats off to you. Brilliantly niche. Now, if you were, you were clicking on this video and you might have seen the title and thought, well, what does this have to do with things? The idea of retard-maxxing is that you almost have this like IQ bell curve, if you like, and this is the way it was explained in the video I watched, but there are plenty of videos about it, about how you can think less and just enjoy life more. And I think that a lot of people don't like hearing that ignorance is bliss, when it actually kind of is. And I would put it to you as well that a lot of the issues that you have are creations of your own mind. Are your problems real problems, or do you make them up? When you're worried about something, you're worried about something that your boss has said, or you're worried about something that your manager has pulled you up on something. Are you actually worried about what they've pulled you up on? Or are you worried about where it might go? Or are they discussing me right this very second? Are they talking about me? Are they, God, they might be thinking about firing me. If there's an economic crisis next year, there will be, mark my words. If there's an economic crisis next year, will I be first on the chopping block? Oh, guys, I really don't know what to do. I mean, how much of that might sound like something that you might think? Because I know that's the sort of thing that has gone around in my head when I've received criticism from work, if I'm honest. Where you basically get feedback, which often is just feedback about the past week or something like that. Feedback about a really short period of time. And sometimes if you say to yourself, like, you'll actually realise that you are overthinking it. If you say to yourself, well, this feedback is maybe just for something that I've done recently, and then just realise that your manager or someone like that is also not overthinking it, probably, if they are overthinking it, and you've been pretty fucking good for 7 years, you've been there for 7 years and you're great, and then you get a bit of feedback that's this just needs to improve at the moment. If you start overthinking it, like just have a sense of scale. Like think to yourself, how likely is it these guys are going to get rid of me when I've done a pretty good job for this long? I've basically put my hours in, that sort of thing. I put the effort in. You don't really need to think about it too much. If you get a bit of feedback, if you get a bit of criticism, you don't need to think about it probably further back than the last week. That's usually where it ends. Now, why is that? That's because that's I don't think a lot of people can think further back than that, if that's kind of okay to say. I don't think a lot of people really can think too much further than just the last week or two, right? And they won't consider your performance, or they won't consider, and you won't consider your own performance kind of any further back than the last week or two. Now, what this is called is a recency bias. So when you get a bit of feedback or criticism and you overthink it, it's because you have a recency bias. A little bit of feedback or criticism that's worded in a way that makes it sound as if it's a consistent problem is recency bias on the part of whoever is giving this feedback. Now, this does not have to be your manager, this does not have to be your boss, this can be in relationships as well. I'm sure that many other married men, like me, or anybody that's in any kind of long-term relationship will have heard you always do this. And when you think about it, it's probably not something you've done for the past, you've maybe only done a couple of times in the past month. And it's just you've got that recency bias, or they've got that recency bias in their head. By the way, guys, if you do that to people, do just pick yourself up on it. You don't need me to tell you that you need to not be so harsh or something like that, but do pick yourself up on it if you exercise a bit of catharsis by saying to people, you always do this, when it's not something they always do. It's actually something that they've only done a couple of times in the past, like I say, a couple of weeks or maybe even a month. Now, how that can get out of control is, and by the way, I'm definitely not retard-maxxing here. I think am I overthinking things though? Maybe, but I think I quite like to talk a little bit longer about this sort of thing, just to give a little bit of context to things. But if you get some feedback and you're one of these people that overthinks, I definitely am, and you get feedback and you start to think a little bit badly of yourself for it, the reason that could ever start to derail something is not because it's genuine feedback and now, oh God, it was good, he or she was good, then that was that one thing, and since then it's always been downhill. That only happens to overthinkers. And it only happens to overthinkers because they then make it happen to themselves once they hear that bad feedback. They subconsciously, I would say, probably start to set their life on that track of actually getting more and more feedback for things that they do next. A while back I made a video on momentum, and I think that this is maybe something quite similar to that. This is maybe just how it starts. This is maybe just how, once you get it into your head that you think of yourself as someone that needs criticism and needs feedback constantly, I'm always this, I'm always that, then that can quickly just, again, going back to the recency bias, that applies to this in a different way. That quickly then becomes your personality because it's the way that you think of yourself. Because if you think, God, I've been a fuck up for the past month, that's not your whole life, and it's certainly not the amount of time that you might have been working somewhere, or that you've been in a relationship, or that you have been working on a business, say. A month is really quite a short period of time, and a lot can go wrong in a month, and an awful lot can go right in a month. So when you start to think of yourself as things are all going wrong, actually do kind of jot down why things are going wrong. For me, that helps to externalize something by writing it down. But actually jot down why you think things are going wrong, and kind of try and think back to when they were last right. And literally, guys, if it's a month ago, if it's the past couple of months, things have been absolutely fine until the past couple of, a month or two ago. It's probably not a big deal. Now, maybe if it was a couple of months ago and things have sort of been stacking up, it's not that your life has suddenly gone bad and you're now on this forever, never-ending train of bad luck. It's simply that you probably have overthought things. This recency bias that I've been talking about, where your brain prioritizes things that have happened more recently than others. That recency bias is strong, and it's telling you that you're a lifelong fuck up, not just someone who's made a mistake or two in the past couple of weeks or months. So try and consider that. You're probably watching this video, which is going to be very small. Maybe in the future this is a big channel, and you know, whoever you are, you're watching this video, and there's quite a lot of you. And if that's the case, then brilliant. But I completely lost my train of thought. I suppose what I was getting to is that you kind of don't need to let, you certainly don't need to let your past control you. You certainly don't need to let the past week or two or month or two control you. If that sounds like you, and if you actually take a moment to think about this, and it's only in the past couple of months that you realise that things have been going wrong, it's because you've received a little bit of feedback, you've received some criticism that you didn't like, and that you thought you were the golden boy, you were the angel child before you got that, and now you sort of think it's a fall, right? It's almost like a biblical thing in a funny way. but you now almost think that it's a fall from grace, and now you'll never get that back. Just nip that in the bud and be normal. That's the best way I can describe it. And how does this sort of fold into the dough of retard-maxxing? Well, glad you asked. Retard-maxxing is essentially, I described it at the start as almost like a happy stoicism, which is certainly something that I'd like to give a try. I suppose that maybe you could sum it up with a heuristic, which is that there are certain things that are out of your control, and if they're out of your control, well, at least you're in control of your reactions. And that's a little bit of stoicism. Now, what if you actually went for it, you did the exact same thing, and also just said to yourself, I don't really care. I'd rather enjoy things. I'd rather I love my wife. I love playing games. I love my dog. I love going for a drive in my car. I love drinking a beer. I love this. I love living in the moment a little bit. That's fine. Like that is that's probably a much better way to be than someone who's constantly overthinking and constantly overanalyzing every situation that they've been in and every conversation that they've had. The amount of like just undue stress that you're going to place on your own relationships because you are, after the fact, just completely overanalyzing what's gone on, who said what when, the way they said it, inflections, words used, why did they say that rather than that kind of thing. That is an overthinker, and there are plenty of those. There are plenty of intelligent people who think so much that they accomplish nothing. And it's because they spend all their time thinking and no time doing. Yeah, this guy. They spend all their time thinking and no time doing. And when that happens, you basically get like Redditors. You get people who just, at the sign of any good idea, they just tell you that everyone else would have done it already. Snarky kind of comments about, no one would ever do that because if it worked, everyone would have done it by now. As if every idea has already been conceived of and taken advantage of. Plainly not. So, they never try anything. Overthinkers never try anything. They never take action. They just ruminate. And if you are a bit of a ruminator, if you are a little bit of an overthinker and a ruminator, and you overanalyze things that you've said, you overanalyze things that other people have said, then that's, obviously it's quite bad for you, and it goes against the principles of retard-maxxing, but it does genuinely get you nowhere. And if you want proof of that, the subreddits are going to be full of these people as a rule, because I think that this sort of snarky, far too intelligent for anybody else and to hear anything else but a know-it-all kind of character is like the epitome of a Redditor. But if there's somewhere that you're going to find the epitome of this, of an overthinker, the opposite of a retard-maxxer, just someone who thinks about every social situation, it's probably that subreddit, Am I the Asshole? Where people go on, it's pathetic, people go on and tell long-winded stories about social interactions that they've had, and occasionally you get a good one, which is like fair. But the rule, I think, on that sort of place is that people just go on and they overanalyze the fuck out of personal stories that actually are probably quite private most of the time as well. But they just massively overanalyze themselves, their partners, all this sort of stuff. Someone like that is never a mover, an action taker. They are when the movers and the action takers are doing exactly that, moving and taking action, they would be sat on the sidelines saying, but did you consider this? I wouldn't do that because I'm not comfortable with doing this, because they want an extra option. If you think of that phrase, lead, follow, or get out of the way, They want another option, which is criticize and stand in front and stop. And that is how you get things like the health and safety culture that, people rail against, but, which, people talk about more here in the UK, but I gather is a thing that's worldwide. The whole idea of health and safety gone mad, that idea. And that is a growing class of people who are wasteful in that, for one thing, that they're usually not employed in the productive parts of a business. They virtually will never be starting their own businesses. Where they are employed, it's always in something that is extremely risk averse and is extremely tied around stopping people from doing things rather than potentially organizing and encouraging people to take action. It's always like a health and safety thing, or it's a regulatory thing. And I think there's far too much overthinking in the world because there's far too many people in those jobs, and there's far too many jobs for them as well. There's a huge amount of bureaucracy in any Western country, and I'd certainly say not just even any business as well. Sorry, not even every political thing, but every business as well. An awful lot of businesses, especially large ones. If you think of something like Amazon, almost has a governmental level of like bullshit jobs. There's plenty of these big companies that have vast overburdened departments, like HR or health and safety or something like that, which are there and not they are not a moneymaker. They're almost there as I know for HR, using that as an example, is something that is more to protect the company from the employee doing something. It's not. It's risk management for the company, more or less, but maybe that's it. It's just risk management. There's a huge amount of people who are just risk managers, and they manage their own risk to an absurd degree. Make a suggestion in their presence, they'll try and manage your risk to an absurd degree, and you need to be able to shut that noise out and retard max. You need to be able to shut the noise out and try things. If you try 1,000 things and one of them is the jackpot, you hit the jackpot 1 in 1,000 times. You try anything 10,000 times. So don't overthink things. Don't certainly don't overanalyze them probably to the extent that I've done in this video. Don't overthink things. Don't analyze conversations. It's tiresome. It's tiresome for you, and it's tiresome for the people who are around you that have to hear about your neuroses, basically. There's really nothing to be gained from overthinking. No one who achieved anything in history has said, "Oh, I owe it to the fact that I ruminated on conversations I had with people." Maybe some really shit tier philosophers who have accomplished nothing. Maybe some terrible playwrights and that kind of thing. Nobody who's of substance. You are of substance, and you should be of purpose as well. I would imagine that you in your own life are of purpose. You have people who are relying on you, whether it's your parents and they want to hear your voice on a phone call, they're relying on you. Whether it's your children or your wife, they're relying on you, or your girlfriend, they're relying on you. Your dog, he's relying on you. Just think about that. And you owe it to them to be a good friend to them, basically, and not constantly analyze every interaction that you have with them to the point that it's dead. You definitely owe that to them.